All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Anna Rita Mores, and I am the chair here at the School of Design. This morning, I'm going to be talking to you about our new Honors Bachelor of Brand Design program, and I will leave some room at the end of the presentation to answer any questions that you may have about the program. So I'm just going to go over a quick agenda of what I'll talk about. I'll tell you a little bit about the school. I'll give you an overview of the program. I'll talk a little bit about the logistics and the admission requirements, and then I'll go over some of the structure for the curriculum. I won't get too into what you can do after the program, but I will talk just a little bit about that, as well as the industry demand for brand designers and some differentiators before we get to the question. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the school. And rather than telling you, I'm going to show you. All right, that was a little teaser video for our upcoming year-end show, which will take place between May 3rd and May 7th, where we'll showcase the work of nearly 400 graduates across our 10 programs at the School of Design. So we've been learning virtually like many other colleges and universities over the last year, but generally we have a really lovely space down by the waterfront. It's a 103,000 square feet environment, and it's been designed for hands-on learning. So what that means is we have a series of state-of-the-art classrooms. We have an in-store and studio where we sell products that have been designed by students to raise money for student scholarships. We have a game gallery that's reserved to play games designed by students from our game design program. We have a large auditorium that's been intended to create a bit of a hub for design across the city. So we have key lectures and lecture series that happen out of that auditorium. We also have 2 photo studios with green screen and compete with studio lighting. We have a drawing room with a really beautiful view as well. It gives students an opportunity to do life drawing and live model drawing. And then we have a maker lab, which has a series of different hardware in it, 3D printer, laser cutters, a vinyl cutter, a spray booth, etc. Everything you would need to sort of tinker on some final projects. And then we have a peer tutor lab and a design library. And this peer tutor lab is designed to allow students to continue to work on their project with the support of a tutor throughout the time in the program. And these are just some photos of those respective spaces, and we're looking forward to giving you an in-person tour whenever we can. Now, a little bit about the brand design program. So it is a 4-year honors degree, and then it produces designers with strengths in collaboration, research, critical and strategic thinking, technical design, and execution in brand storytelling. Now, we often get asked, what are the differences between the brand design program and the graphic design program? And the main differences are that you'll be doing a little bit more research. You'll be really working a bit more on your communication and writing skills, but you'll still have the same opportunities to garner technical design skills. So you'll still learn all of the same tools that you would learn in the graphic design program, all of the Adobe Creative Suite, looking at 3D, looking at packaging, etc. Now, I'm not going to read these out, but these are the general program outcomes. And what that means is that by the end of your time with us in the program, you'll be able to do these things well. So you'll have mastered a series of ideation techniques. You'll be able to incorporate interdisciplinary approaches through planning, production, critique of the design and strategy work. You'll be able to utilize professional practice knowledge of business and branding, and then you'll also be able to design solutions in support of brand strategy. So really focused on a multidisciplinary approach. Now, again, just to go over in a little bit more detail, the program sort of focuses on these 4 areas. The first is communication, and we're not talking about just generally like giving presentations, but more so how you can communicate through design, visually, orally, and also through writing skills. And this idea to write is really focused on being able to visualize and tell the story of a brand across multiple touch points. And of course, you'll be able to do this through the research that you garner. So being able to talk to different folks, to being able to do surveys, et cetera, interviews, in order to prepare the actual designs that you're creating. And then you'll work collaboratively towards creative innovation, not only with your peers that are in the program with you, but also with industry professionals across the design industry. So some of the program logistics. So generally the basics of the program, it is a 4-year program. It happens across 8 semesters, and there is one co-op term as well between 3rd and 4th year. That co-op term is 420 hours in total, and you'll be placed with a design studio or industry or in-house professional across Toronto. There is an opportunity for that to be an international placement as well, and I'll talk about that shortly. The program starts in September and it's a full-time status program. So we recommend students be registered full-time for the program. We will take up to 35 students across one section of the program. The program is open to domestic and international students as well. And right now the domestic tuition starts at $7,700 across the first 2 semesters of programming. So what do you need to prepare an application for this program? So we have some general requirements that are focused on the Ontario Secondary School Diploma or equivalent. There are 6 grade 12 university or university college courses with a combined average of 65%. English grade 12 with a grade of 65% or higher. Mathematics and grade 11 university or college university or grade 12 university with a grade of 60% or higher. In addition to the requirements, the grading requirements, we do have 2 additional items that we ask students to submit. One is an application questionnaire and one is a portfolio. So once you've submitted your application and they've verified that you have the eligible Ontario Secondary School requirements, you'll be forwarded to the phase to submit your application questionnaire and portfolio. So when you get an opportunity to submit the questionnaire, it's designed to help us understand where you want your future career objectives and intentions in the program to go. So it gives us an opportunity to get a sense of where your expectations of the program are, but generally also where you want your career to end up when you're done the program. And that helps us a bit also in the curriculum to prepare you for those goals. So we ask that you write a short statement of interest between 500 and 750 words, describing what your career objectives and branding are. We ask that you use that space to define branding and brand design and what it means to you. Tell us a little bit about why the program is well suited to what your goals are. Outline your personal goals and career objectives. So do you have a specific place that you want to work? If so, tell us about where that may be and why. And then talking a little bit about how you feel research informs design. And then we ask you to describe a little bit about your past experiences and future interests in design, branding, UX, UI, etc. Often for students that are applying out of high school, we ask them to talk a little bit about some of the courses they've taken in high school that they were interested in that piqued their interest in design. Now, getting to the actual portfolio itself, we ask that students include up to a maximum of 15 pieces of diverse work. So you may include samples of 2- and 3-dimensional projects such as sketches, paintings, photographs, videos, design, packaging, branding, exhibitions, digital art, physical or digital models, depending on what you have. You may also choose to include a series of writing samples that may be relevant to the program. Maybe you've written an essay that you really like. Maybe you've got a series of articles or blog posts. All of those things would be considered eligible for inclusion. In terms of the actual portfolio itself, we ask you that when you do submit the link for it, you make it accessible. Oftentimes students submit a Google Drive link, but the link isn't accessible to us, and then we have to email the student back. So just make sure that that is an open link that we can access. We ask that you also include your best work. So be a bit more focused on quality over quantity. We like to see preference of 5 to 8 pieces as opposed 5 to 8 strong pieces as opposed to 15 pieces that you've just kind of included because you've done them. So again, be a little bit strategic and think a little bit about what you're including there. We also ask that you be clear and transparent. So write a little bit of a blurb on what your role was in creating this, especially if it was part of a group project. We want to understand a little bit more about that. And then we ask that people be process oriented. Often students tend to include just the final project that they've submitted for a video, for example, but it would be great for us to be able to see some storyboards and things that you did to sort of prepare. So we really like to see the process of how you came to your final idea. Now, a little bit about the structure of the program, and I won't go into too many details here, but just to go general overview. So again, we have this component that's focused on critical thinking and communication. And the courses that align with that are really focused in brand theory and brand strategy. So a little bit on the business and marketing side, looking at research and writing. And then on the design side, we have a lot of the courses that you would see in our traditional graphic design program. So design studio courses, typography courses, production courses, 3D environment courses, and then senior thesis projects as well. So again, in general, broad strokes overview of what the course listings themselves are. So you can see in first semester, you're getting a lot of knowledge around the studio with design foundations, production courses, typography courses, and those carry well into the second semester as well. And then into year 2, we start to get into the strategy side of things. So now that you've sort of built a little bit of your design skills, how do you apply them from a strategic framework? And then also continuing on those design courses. So again, design studio 3, production 3, typography, etc. And again, that carries well into semester 4. By semester 3, you have an opportunity to be joined by the students that have completed the graphic design program and are then interested in the brand design program. So the cohorts in year 3 grow a little bit because we're joined by some of the other programs at the college who integrate into the program. And you can see by year 3, things are getting a little bit more technical, right? So we have focuses on UX, UI, branded environments, 3D environments, so creating renderings and pop-up shops, etc. Looking at systems design, designing a full identity for a brand, and then getting into the professional practice side of things, because by the summer of that 3rd year, you're working on your co-op placement. And that co-op placement gives you a little bit of industry expertise so that when you get to year 4, semester 7, you're ready to tackle your big thesis project. Now, a lot of people often ask, what are things that I'll focus on designing throughout the term and throughout the time in the program? So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of some of the things that our students have designed in other programs that translate well into this program. So the first is a big focus on editorial design. So being able to lay out whether it's an annual report or a magazine with strong understandings of typography, strong understandings of design principles, and a really, really finesse perspective on color. Then you'll also look at a massive trend in design right now, which is focused on UX UI. So designing user interfaces and user experiences across multiple touch points, whether that's for a website or an application. So again, really being able to understand and translate that. And we'll do that through a series of web design and coding classes, but also 3D branded environment classes. And then of course, based on the nature of the title of the program, you'll always be focused on this idea of branding and designing for brands. And oftentimes that includes showing us your process work, talking a little bit about how you got to a major idea, looking again at color and how color impacts design, and then really working to finesse some of your branding. So being able to communicate, again, across multiple touch points, understanding texture, etc. And then another really, really critical component of branding and design right now is focused on motion graphics and video. So really understanding how you can take a brand and a logo and elevate it so that it moves, so that you capture a larger audience, so that the brand itself is a bit more dynamic. And we have students that are doing this across all of our programs and really, really focused in on taking things and sort of elevating them to the structure of a movable brand. By that same token, you'll work quite a bit on 3D rendering, understanding how to use software like SketchUp, and really being able to create a 3D environment for a brand or for a specific industry. Finally, the program will also focus quite a bit around designing for specific purposes, such as a package. So we do quite a bit around package design right now, and everything from designing labels to understanding the 3D nature of the package itself, and then being able to see it live on a shelf, for example. We also have lots of opportunities for our students to design products to be focused on in our in-store, which I talked about at the beginning of the presentation. So this tote bag and those pins were designed by a student and then sold in the store, and all of the profits were garnered towards student awards. We've also had lots of graduates that have been successful in branding opportunities. This is Josh Dornan. Josh actually designed the bobsled and the skeleton for the Olympics. And so here he is with the designs that he's created. Now, a little bit back on field education and field placement. So students often ask about their placements. Are they responsible for finding the placements? We'll work with our field placement office. We'll be able to provide you with a list of employers and a list of jobs that you're eligible for. You'll then apply for those, and the employer will have an opportunity to select from the students who have applied for those respective positions. We work with a whole range of employers across the city, including Bruce Mao Design, Cassette, Pivot, Umrah, Ubisoft, Shopify, Huge, Leo Burnett, TIFF, and Rogers, just to name a few. And oftentimes, those field education opportunities may turn into longer contract work or sometimes even permanent positions. So we offer that field placement in between year 3 and year 4. And again, often students ask if they can do those field placements in their home country, and we do our best to accommodate those. So graduate pathways. So you've done 4 years of the program and you're asking yourself, what can I do now? So the program prepares students for careers in branding, for careers in web design, graphic design, visual design, multimedia and design research, brand strategy, as well as content management, communication strategy, etc. It also gives students an opportunity to prepare for higher education, particularly if you're interested in doing a master's in branding and strategic foresight, in design practices and design studies, etc. The program gives you the expertise and knowledge based on research and writing in order to succeed in those programs. Now, oftentimes we get asked why we've created the program. We already have a graphic design program. How does it differ? And when we were in consultation with lots of design professionals across the city, they talked to us quite a bit about why it was important to prepare a graduate that was multifaceted and dynamic and could really understand the nature of a design studio beyond the two-dimensional understanding of graphic design. And so they wanted someone that had really strong writing and reading skills. They wanted someone that could understand new technology and was able to work across old and new channels. Someone who could create streamlined brand messaging across multiple mediums. So being able to, for example, to create a campaign, to be able to run social media campaigns, to be able to create an app, to be able to create printed assets as well. They wanted someone that was flexible, that could work across multiple sectors, services, and products. Someone who could work collaboratively and could understand both the business and creative side. So again, looking at both strategy and also graphic design across brand. Also being able to understand research and like how research plays into design and how it should impact your design. And then also being able to compete a bit on tenders. What that means is understanding the processes for requests for proposals, understanding how to work with a client, understanding budgets, etc. So some key program differentiators that I think are important to mention here. The program is incredibly unique. There's no other programs across Canada focused on this approach and curriculum with brand. Of course, there are lots of graphic design programs, but none that are zeroed in this way. All of the faculty teaching in the program are part-time, and this is based on the fact that they're maintaining their industry expertise. Most of them run their own studios or are working in a studio somewhere across the city. We have a program advisory committee for this program, as we do with all of our programs at the School of Design, that give faculty current advice and trends based on the industry, and we then tailor the curriculum and the courses within the program to fit the needs of the industry. Strategies for marketing to the program are ideal for global and domestic students. So again, we really want to have this multifaceted global perspective when we want students from across the world to come to the program to feel open to talk about the experiences that they've had and also share what branding and the world of branding has been like for them. And then the field placement. So the program, again, offers a really dynamic opportunity to be placed with an employer to garner not only skills in branding, but a further understanding of how the space of branding works and what a design studio environment is like. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thanks, Anarita. I think your presentation was so thorough. We don't have a lot of questions. Although I do see one pop up. What is the employment rate for this program?
So it's a new program, and so we don't have actual employment rate metrics, but I can tell you that generally the graphic design field is continuing to grow. We're noticing a massive trend in people hiring in-house designers for their respective entities. This is a massive undertaking, for example, in the financial industry, but also across lots of different industries in hospitality, for example, they're hiring designers to work with them. I would imagine that all of the students that graduate from this program have the same opportunities to leverage those design skills, but also from a branding perspective. So it makes you a little bit more competitive with some of the other graphic design students. So I don't have specific rates for the employment, just based on the fact that the program hasn't launched yet and will launch in the fall. But in any case, there is a very strong current market for graphic designers, and we feel that the program would be on par with that. I also noticed that there's a question from Ruslan based on the differences between interaction design and brand design. The interaction design program is a lot more focused on sort of human-centered design, a lot stronger of a focus on ergonomics, human factors, coding, and really understanding designing for immersive environments. Whereas the brand design program is a little bit more focused on creating sort of technical graphic designs based on research for a brand. So again, you're sort of dealing a little bit with some objects and some entities that would be similar, particularly around UX UI design and 3D environment design. But generally the focus for interaction design is a lot more technical in the sense of coding and programming. And again, really rooted in human-centered design and human factors, as opposed to brand design, which is more focused on visual design elements. So designing for typography, design principles, etc., and applying those to a brand. Yep, you do need an English writing level. I believe all of that information is on the website. And depending if it's a domestic student, I think that the qualification is 65% in college or university college English. And I'm not exactly sure what the exact scores are for the IELTS for international students, but that information is available on the website. I can share that in the chat. The question around qualifications needed for this field, I think that question might be related to applying, and I'll also share that information in the chat so that it's all there. So if you just click on the link that I just put in the chat and you scroll down to how to qualify and apply, it should give you all of the information with regards to the admission requirements that are needed.